Okay, Rebecca, we can get it started.
Okay, great, Mr. Henderson. So thank you all for joining us this evening for Teaching Kids Responsibility and Discipline with Mr. Andrew Henderson. My name is Rebecca Dabbs. I'm a USC Public Health intern working with the Wooten Center this summer. Thank you again, Mr. Henderson, for presenting to us and teaching us how to be better parents and instill responsibility and discipline in our kids. Mr. Henderson has, for over 20 years, been the Executive Director of Families for Children, Inc., and is currently the Consulting Program Officer for FFC Spiritual and Behavioral Health Center. It is a behavioral health program operated by Families for Children. Mr. Henderson attended the University of Santa Cruz, where he received a BS degree in economics in 1981. He attended California State University, Los Angeles, where he received an MS degree in counseling in 1998. Throughout his professional career, Mr. Henderson has been an advocate for youth and is credited with developing innovative programming to address this population. He created the Foster Youth Empowerment Workshop, which is a person-centered emotional and spiritual development program for TAY youth. The program consisted of a 4-day curriculum-based workshop in Big Bear. The workshop taught the 7 principles of resilience, engaged the youth in adventure-based counseling activities, and in the evening, held communication forums where the youth were able to share incredible personal stories in an environment of trust and fellowship. Mr. Henderson has a long and distinguished history of collaborating with public and private organizations to enhance the quality of life for youth and families. And with that, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I just want to mention how much I appreciate the work the Wooten Center has done over the years. They are a staple in this community, really a wonderful, legendary organization in the community. So I'd like to thank the Wooten Center and thank you personally, Rebecca, for your help in putting this process together. It's been tremendous. So that is who I am. So I'd like to do some introductions in the room, quote unquote. So we can start. I'm not sure what your screens look like, but people just want to dive in. I count a total of about 9 additional folks on the call. So who wants to be brave and start? Yeah, you have to take yourself off of mute. If you've never done a Zoom call, which I assume you have, take yourself off of mute as you introduce.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm a parent at the Wooten Center, and I'm happy to be joining tonight. This is my first meeting.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
No problem.
Hi, this is Jay Williams, also a parent of a rising 5th grader. Not my first meeting, but happy to be here. I learn something every time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall I jump in next? Good evening, all. My name is CJ, proud dad at Al Wooten. Love the team there, love the family there. We've just got a young 6th grader that's just graduated, heading to middle school. So we appreciate everything that the Al Wooten Center has done for us and our daughter, and all the other kids for that matter as well.
Okay, so then I have to add to his soliloquy, if you will. They have a valedictorian in their family. So I think we all need to clap our hands and say, way to go for that valedictorian. Well done.
Thank you all very much. As I say, can't claim any of the credit, but thank you anyway.
Hello, everyone. I'll actually show my face too, and not just my voice. My name is Mr. Casey. I work with the Wooten Center. I've been working there for now 3 years, and I actually help to assist with the education. Recently, I've been working with the students, helping to assist with mathematical understanding. Nice to meet and see everyone.
A couple more.
Hello, my name is Sherry Jones, and I'm a parent of a middle schooler in LAUSD. I got an email about this power training, and I was interested in learning some stuff tonight. So I'm excited to learn about whatever you guys will be discussing today.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tracy Thomas. I'm the mother of Dyrone Thomas II. This is not my first meeting, but I'm excited to learn what Mr. Henderson will talk to us about today.
Thank you. I think, is that one more that you're on mute? I can't see the name. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started in the interest of people's time. I would like to just thank everyone for gathering here this evening to just hear what has helped many, many, many parents in our organization over the years. These are some principles that are not new, but they're tried and true. And as Rebecca and I were kind of discussing at the beginning, sometimes it's as important to have old information reaffirmed as it is to hear new information. Because I think many times we believe that if we hear it once, it's enough, when in fact, no, it's not. Because most trainings that any of us have been to, especially when you talk about face-to-face trainings in rooms full of people, when you leave the room, chances are you forget probably 70% of what was talked about. You start thinking about getting back to the office, getting home, or whatever it is that you are doing in your life. So these reaffirmations, if you will, I think are very important in securing how we work with our children. So the title of this presentation this evening is Teaching Kids Responsibility and Discipline. So we'll start with motivating your student. The purpose of this presentation is to suggest means for parents to approach their children and teenagers in ways that reduce friction or misunderstandings. Information on the normal expected aspects of development and those behaviors that may be cause for concern are presented. Now, specific activities are suggested for motivation, building self-esteem, and developing a sense of responsibility within the family. So today's discussion will highlight, and I have to emphasize highlight because there is another bundle of information that you will receive related to each one of these. But in order to fully explore those, it would take a lot longer than a 90-minute meeting. So you will absolutely hear about the highlights of these toolkits. So we have self-esteem, motivation, the child's personal responsibility for learning, and I think that's pretty important. And then family activities to motivate your learner. And in the times of COVID, right? And it's not just COVID, but you guys in your experience probably have seen that the parents that need the information, or even individuals that need the information the most, tend not to be the ones that seek the information, right? It's the high achieving students, for example, that seem to participate in all the activities. Those students that we would just hope just grab the information are the ones that are least likely to do that. And that continues to be a challenge at all levels of social intervention and social welfare. The group of parents we have on this call this evening are obviously highly motivated parents, and that is certainly appreciated. But I would like to add that in your experiences, some of your educators, some of your leaders in other kind of parenting environments, please share this information with them, both in what you're sent in terms of hard documents and what you may hear that stimulates a conversation or a thought. So self-esteem. Self-esteem refers to the sense of respect, to a sense of self-respect, confidence, identity, and purpose found in an individual. And that's, the citing is there. A child's self-esteem determines how he or she will act and learn. It is important to begin helping the child develop self-esteem as early in life as possible. However, it is never too late to begin or to resume this assistance. Now, you've heard the term nurture and nature and all of that stuff, right? Sometimes we have to augment what wasn't done with children. You folks who are in the education profession know that sometimes parent environments are not the best, and we're not going to assign fault here. It just sometimes circumstances are such that kids miss certain things. So it's never too late to start using tools to increase the self-esteem piece, because ultimately that is the cause of most of the distress our children are feeling. They just don't feel good about themselves, which leads to all kind of negative emotional functioning and behavior. So points concerning children's self-esteem. Children with high self-esteem, they're self-motivated learners, have high expectations, get along well with peers, parents, and adults, are more self-managed and self-disciplined, assume personal responsibility, they seek and enjoy new challenges, set and accomplish realistic short and long-range goals. Hence, the parents of the valedictorian we have on the Zoom call this evening. Children with low self-esteem exhibit low motivation for learning. They feel inadequate. They criticize others. They lack confidence. They find excuses for putting forth little, if any, effort. They find their motivation to learn less. They are external or other motivated. Can we please mute ourselves? That would be fantastic. Okay. And my point earlier about the self-esteem challenge being the root cause of so much of the other issues children are facing, you can see from the behaviors exhibited by low self-esteem children that those will lead to behaviors and long-term events that are absolutely negative in a child's life. Conditions for self-esteem occur when a child is seen as important and unique, with rights and feelings that need to be acknowledged and protected. Children develop self-esteem when they have a sense of security, identity, self-concept, belonging, purpose, and personal competence. To support your child in having and maintaining a positive self-concept or identity, there are 4 actions you can take that will facilitate his or her efforts. Treat your child as an important person. Treat him or her with respect. Kind of obvious, right? But so often we forget. It's the little, even as adults, there are some words people can say to us. There are small actions people can do that devastate how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about others, even as adults. Imagine how children experience that. They're much less developed in terms of their mental facilities and competence to kind of guard against that. They are so vulnerable. So again, understand that even as adults, this can really damage how people feel about themselves. Provide your child with love and acceptance. Again, pretty straightforward. Provide your child with acknowledgement of his or her strengths and make positive comments to others about your child. Again, at the beginning, I talked about how a lot of stuff isn't new. We just need to be reminded. And again, it's those times when it's least expected or the child is just struggling, that it's those kind of words and actions that can really make a difference. And then spend quality time with your child. Okay. A child feels a sense of belonging when he or she is allowed to contribute to the family and is appreciated by family members. You can facilitate your child's sense of belonging in the following ways. Build close family relationships, teach your child how to be a group member, encourage your child to perform service to others. Let's spend some time with that. We have in our community a large segment of single parents, and we may have some on the call now. And I just so admire how many of you face the challenge and are just really attempting to do the very best you can The tools that you're going to learn today, what we have tried to do is not make things too complicated, but kind of integrate them into how you would normally function. Now, build close family relationships, that's obvious. Teach your child how to be a group member. Sometimes that's not so obvious, but in terms of your child's long-term self-sufficiency and functional ability, being able to be a group member makes all the difference in the world, hence a classroom, right? We all have to be group members at some point in our lives, particularly in a classroom. Encourage your child to perform service to others. Now, when you talk about developing a sense of empathy and a sense of something greater than yourself that really inspires and promotes self-esteem and a sense of belonging. When you now you as adults know how you feel when you do something for another person, right? You feel pretty good about yourself as much as the other person feels good about receiving. And that lesson for a child is foundational in terms of building empathy, building character, making sure that as they grow and develop, they are a service not only to others, but to themselves. And in personal relationships, it makes a huge difference. A sense of purpose occurs when children feel good about themselves. You can help your child develop and maintain a sense of purpose by doing the following. Have high but reasonable expectations for your child to achieve. Help your child to set realistic goals and try to help him or her acquire the skills necessary to reach the goals. Let's spend some time on point number 2. Help your child set realistic goals, right? If I'm a 3rd grader and my parent says, you're going to be doing complicated division by the end of the school year. No, you're not going to be doing complicated division. You're going to be doing something simple division. You're going to be doing something that is reasonable. You're building templates of success. It's stacking success on top of success on top of success, right? So what happens is, once your child has an experience of succeeding, then that leads to again, I'm going to use the term long-term self-sufficiency because what we are building here are responsible adults. We're building parents that build valedictorians. I'm sorry I keep picking on you, but that's a wonderful thing. So again, little success leads to longer successes. So when we say realistic goals, that is so important. And then what happens, what you need to recognize too, is when they succeed in these little goals, they need to be acknowledged, okay? And again, as a parent, the second part of that piece is to help him or her acquire the skills necessary to reach that goal. That better engages you as well, because you might not know complicated long-term division or whatever it is we're trying to get to here, but you may know the baby steps, right? So you are both experiencing the baby steps as you go. And again, don't just think it's a one-way street here. All of these tools you use have reciprocal benefit. You will benefit too in your own way you operate and function as well. Demonstrate faith and confidence in your child's ability to complete tasks and, when necessary, provide help. Expand your child's interests and talents by providing as many new experiences as possible. Implement a reward system to motivate your child. Okay, again, those of us who have had some success parenting kind of do these things without thinking about them. But again, I was raised in a single parent home. Mom, 4 boys, we kind of ran crazy. But she loved us deeply, dearly, and I would not say unconditionally because we had to do certain things right. But she did a lot of these things intuitively. But some parents some individuals have never had the experience of parenting that allows them to do these things intuitively. So again, I would ask that you share this information with parents who may not be as successful as some of you on this Zoom call are. It is important for your child to develop a sense of personal competence. This can only be accomplished by practice. However, you can encourage your child in this practice in the following ways. Help your child to set reasonable goals, identify resources, and to plan a schedule to reach his or her goals. Provide encouragement and support to your child while recognizing and appreciating progress made towards meeting goals and established timelines, and in acquiring and using problem-solving skills. Okay? Again, personal competence, right? All of these are building blocks to self-esteem and motivation. So again, it's the reasonable goal setting. It's identifying resources. It's these things that we might say little things, but these little things certainly lead to big things. Okay, let's look at the motivation piece. Motivation is a concept, and you guys dive in whenever you can, whenever you'd like. Is a concept which explains the energy, the direction, and the volition which together induce human behavior. Motivation is an attempt to explain why people choose to do the things they do for practical purposes. Motivation in this module refers to the way in which you get your learner to do what you want him or her to do. And those of you that are educators, and even parents who are just right now, every parent in the LA Unified School District, an educator, and not by choice. But motivation, and in my work with youth, was the single biggest challenge. I don't know about other parents that have had challenges with kids, but the unmotivated child is just, it's a huge challenge. Motivation is how you get your child to do their expected chores, complete their homework on their own, get along with other family members, and do what is generally expected of them, such as making appropriate decisions, following through on tasks, and living up to expectations. Now, it says everyone is motivated. However, not everyone is motivated towards the same goal or goals. There are two sources of motivation, internal and external. Internal or self-motivation. It is internal energy that drives students to learn, to want to learn. When people do what they love to do, they do more. Self-motivated students value knowledge and achievement. They are driven to create and to advance in their career preparation and work situations. It is possible to encourage internally or self-motivated learners by, and this is important, establishing learning rituals that are consistently enforced in the home. Now, we have a whole nother module on learning rituals. And if you guys are interested, we can visit those at a later date. Enhancing the learner's self-esteem on a consistent basis and using consistently positive reinforcers in acknowledging learners' success. External motivation. External motivation is generated from others. Although external motivation is better than no motivation at all, external motivation should be used by parents only when necessary to provide learners a sense of achievement and confidence, which may result in motivation becoming more internally derived. External motivation usually begins early in a child's life with the use of rewards and punishment. Okay, so this slide is a little more, I guess, counseling and curriculum focused, in that it's called locus of control. internal and external motivation. So what's important to understand here is that this is never 100% one way or 100% the other way. It kind of ebbs and flows. External motivation can feed internal motivation. Internal motivation may require external motivation to stay supported. So it kind of goes circular, right? So just kind of sit with this slide. You know, you guys, again, will get this information and kind of determine, you know, where you fall and where you need to fall during the course of working with your learner. Discipline is a form of external motivation that is used to facilitate obedience. Discipline is most effective when you mean what you say, follow through, be sure your he or she did wrong, and be sure your child understands the consequences. Discipline is not synonymous with punishment. Let me repeat that. Discipline is not synonymous with punishment. Discipline learned by knowing how to behave is optimal. This is a positive internal motivation approach, which leads children having self-discipline, which in turn leads to responsibility. Okay, that was a mouthful. Again, I'm not going to reread it, but it's something that you guys should sit with for a minute. Again, not this evening, because I want to make sure there's plenty of time to discuss, and then we can always go back if there's something that you wanted to get some more clarity on.
Mr. Henderson, we actually have a question in the chat box.
Okay.
The question is, what tools or resources are available to transition a child towards being more intrinsically motivated?
Okay, let's go back up here. Okay.
Thank you.
We talk about external motivation is generally, although external motivation is better than no motivation, external motivation should be used by parents only when necessary to provide learners a sense of achievement and confidence, which may result in motivation becoming more internally derived. So we talk about reinforcements. That's a term that behaviorists use. It's basically rewarding children for doing something well. Rewarding children for completing a task, be it take the trash out, rewarding a child for just getting up on time to go to school. In other words, look for opportunities to make that child feel good about themselves. Okay? Any opportunity that you can find to make a child feel good about themselves leads to internal motivation, right? Because it builds confidence. It's the building blocks of everything we're discussing so far. Again, it's the building block process, right? And there's a term called rationally emotive therapy, basically self-talk. And what that is that you guys are listening to this presentation, but you're having a conversation in your mind right now. The conversation about what I'm sounding like, what I have to do, what I have to, all of these things, right? That's called self-talk. And so that self-talk, if it's negative self-talk, right? What do you think negative self-talk leads to? Negative behaviors, right? Negative events in your child's life. If it's positive self-talk, what do you think that leads to? They start to feel better about themselves, and how they feel translates into how they behave. So, hey, Dewan, I really appreciate you taking that trash out on time today. You know, I do. I know we've had trouble in the past. You haven't done it, but today you did it, man, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So how do you think he's going to start to feel from that one line? Especially if you don't do that very often. Wow. Right? So again, it's building. It's a building process here. Don't expect any of this stuff to work overnight, but trust the process. You got to trust the process. Okay? And I'm hoping that addressed your question, but please continue. I won't say the answer, man, but at least I'll try to make it make sense. Okay. Reckinger identifies 12 ways parents can facilitate their learners' motivation. And again, I think this might go back to the earlier question, some of the questions that people are having now in the chat room. encourage by expecting your child to be competent and responsible. Right? Now, let's sit with that for a minute. By expecting your child to be competent and responsible. So what if he or she isn't? What do you do? Do you belittle that child? Do you make that child feel terrible about themselves?
When do you have to set the expectations? Because I see how you have to expect your child to be competent. So you have to set a layer of expectations, and then from there, just enforce.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we talked about it in an earlier slide, right? Building realistic expectations.
Correct.
I think that's the difference here between having a child feel competent in doing something and then having a child feel challenged and bad about themselves. Just slice it down to what a child can achieve at that point and build from there. Okay. And guys, please dive in, because, as I said, some of you guys have been doing this work for a lot of years. Provide enthusiastic rewards for effort and improvement. Effort, right? Now, and improvement. Okay, so what we want to recognize there, right? And this is especially for African American learners. We want achievement. It's important that the effort is there and the improvement is there, but we don't want them to go halfway. Now, we don't want anybody to go halfway. But the African American student in LA County is at the bottom of the barrel. That doesn't sit well with me or anybody on this call. So we provide enthusiastic rewards for effort and achievement with the expectation of succeeding, right? We are building success. Provide support and security for any setbacks and fears. Now, again, this is important. When we went in the earlier slide, we talked about a sense of belonging, right? So it's important that this whole approach be holistic, be a continuous process of encouragement, support, discipline, resilience. So all of that stuff is here. Continually appreciate small steps of accomplishment. Expect children to make many trials at certain behaviors. Applaud successes regardless of whether they are large or small. Listen to your child's feelings as well as his or her aha message, right? We in the behavioral health field like to say behavior is an expression of need. Okay, so sit with that. Expression or behavior is an expression of need. Okay, so when your child is not behaving like you'd like them to, there's something behind that behavior that may not be so obvious. Provide as many opportunities as possible for your child to develop and refine his or her skills. Help your child value his or her successes by sharing your happiness for the success. Have a time set aside or ritual to allow for skill practice. Again, there's a whole nother module about rituals. Provide your child with security by setting and maintaining limits. Enjoy being with your child, providing love, support, guidance, instruction, and by modeling the values and behaviors important to you and your family. Okay? Again, many of you are educating your children at home now, and there are many resources out there about how to more successfully do that. And what I want to make sure that you get from this, and it's my responsibility to present it in such a way that this is not an extra burden, something new for you to learn, as you're still having to deal with COVID issues, parent as teacher issue, maybe even some employment issues going on. I'm hoping this is stuff that you can kind of internalize as you go along again, and it will be there for you to reference when you need it. Child's personal responsibility for learning. Being responsible is to make sure something happens. It is making decisions. Making decisions to solve problems take practice in learning about choices and consequences of choices. In order to help your child develop responsible behaviors, it is very important that you establish clearly and exactly who in the family is responsible for what and when. When children know what they are responsible for, they will feel more secure, learn to make decisions and plan for actions, and learn to be responsible for the consequences of their decisions. Beginning early in the child's life by stating expected responsibilities establishes lifelong patterns. Again, there was a comment earlier about setting expectations, right? What's a realistic expectation? We will get into that. After you have established responsibilities for specific tasks, you may wish to post a written list of family members' responsibilities using the following examples as guidelines. Home responsibilities. Pick up toys, set table, help with food preparation, run errands, do laundry. Student responsibility, schoolwork, study, pack for school. Okay, so a simple set of tasks here, right? But the intent here is to show that everybody in the household, not just the student, but everybody in the household has responsibilities in the home. Help your child develop a sense of responsibility. Experience helps your child become aware of what he or she experienced. Identity. Have your child describe what was significant about the experience or particular event. Analyze. Now, help your child to analyze and to understand why the event or outcome was or was not significant. It generalized. Summarize with your child how what he or she learned can be used in future decisions. So let's sit with that slide for a while, okay? Experience, identity, analyze, and generalize. So that kind of gives you a roadmap of conversation and teaching tools, okay? So apply that to the experiences, to your parent-child experience. Again, your child will build a sense of confidence, belonging, that they are a participant in this family, an important participant. And, you know, sometimes our children have various behavior challenges, you know, they like to talk about ADHD and all of these things, particularly in young Black males that's over-diagnosed. We are naturally more kinetic in how we learn. There's different learning methods. See here, there's just the learning styles differ amongst certain populations. So what this allows is for those different learning styles to emerge, I should say, to where children who might not normally have the opportunity to experience, to identify, to analyze, to generalize, suddenly their minds are really firing on just all over the place. This centers them, allows them to participate in the learning process in a way where they feel valued. Family activities to motivate your learner. We are flying right along here. The family is the prime motivator for your learner. It is in the family atmosphere the children learn to be appreciated, to feel secure, to feel a sense of belonging, to feel valued and respected, and to receive encouragement. Again, there are some parts, not of this particular module, where it's interactive, where there's some activities that you guys would do as parent learners, and there would be feedback amongst the parents. Zoom has its limitations, but who am I to complain? I can't change that. Following is a list of activities that have been proven successful for motivating learners in some families. However, there are no right ways for all families. The best activities are those that work for you, right? A few suggestions here. When you go shopping, take your child and explain why you buy certain items and not others, okay? Have a do-right bulletin board where items or messages about good things that have happened or about tasks that have been completed or posted. Have your child make a collage entitled, I am okay and so is my family. Read together, both silently and aloud. Family meetings. Family meetings that are a regularly scheduled ritual become great motivators. Following are some general guidelines for establishing family meetings. Hold a family meeting once a week, every week, no matter what. The whole family gets together for a family meeting. This technique is for all families, single parent, two parent, families with 1 children or 11 children. Do not allow interruptions. Have one family member answer the phone and or door, telling callers they will have to try again later or leave messages for return calls. Everyone gets an opportunity to talk or express his or her feelings without interruption or criticism. Each child has the opportunity to say what is on his or her mind, to get things off his or her chest. There are to be no interruptions or criticisms. Let me repeat that. No interruptions or criticisms. Some of us have those teenage girls that will just, anyway, I won't go there, but that can be exciting during a family meeting. If a child has nothing to say, ask about his or her week. This is the child's time to be center stage. Again, you know, this information is universal and never dated, but we do live in times of, cell phone stuff. I mean, our children have access to a lot of things we didn't have. So the opportunity now to just put the tech away is probably the most important part of this family meeting. There will be no tech in this family. And that alone is substantial. Benefits of a family meeting. Children feel valued by having a say in decisions. Issues can be explored before anger takes over. Family members have a sense of belonging. Parents can appreciate the good things children have done. Children learn how their individual wants and needs affect other people. The most important point of the evening. Children learn how their individual wants and needs affect other people. Children believe they are the center of the universe. How do we build empathy? Again, going back to how do we build character? All of those things are absolutely essential in raising a successful young person that will have some long-term self-sufficiency elements in their lives. Small problems get solved before they become much larger problems. Families experience pulling together to help each other. Families are strengthened and become significant as a way of life. Well, I don't know who that is up there, but I guess that could be me. So as I said, we kind of flew through this. we are early here. I can go back. Anybody had any specific questions, or just, what do you guys think? Is this helpful at all? And you can take yourselves off mute.
I thought it was really helpful. I truly enjoyed the class, or the training, I should say. I took some screenshots so that I could remember, because one time is probably not enough for me.
And as I said, it's something that you guys can certainly be sent. There's 4 modules to this process. This is just the first one, and I just kind of briefly covered that. But there are 4 modules, and it's called FAST, Families and Schools Together.
I think it was very helpful being a educator. You learn a lot of different things, but I think some things along the way you forget, and then you forget to apply it in your own family situations. So you do a lot with parents and people that you meet, but when it comes to your own children, you tend to forget those pointers that you can use and implement in your own family.
So true.
I really like the idea of posting a written list of everyone's responsibility, because one thing my son tends to do is to think that we don't do anything and he does everything. So I think that's a great thing to do, so that they can actually see that everybody.
Now, I guess my question to any parents out there that, well, I guess there are parents out there. Can someone talk about their experience of parent as teacher during the COVID, what their experience of home teaching has been? Can somebody dive in there? Because I'm curious. I think some other parents would be as well.
Can you repeat what you asked?
No, I was asking, can any of you share, those of you who had to be parent educators because your students are at home, what that experience has been like? Can you share that?
Well, I'll go. This is Jay and Walt. It's been challenging. I can underscore that. I consider myself an educated and an organized person, and I felt very challenged transitioning from a full-time employee and come home and take over my second job as mom. But my husband and I both had to transition to work from home, and also homeschool a 10-year-old, a fourth grader. And so just having one, I think the fear that she would be missing information or that there'd be something lacking in her education took over. Then we were supported by her school. So, we started to feel a little bit better weeks and weeks in, but just organizing ourselves to make sure that I'm checking in on her, making sure I'm not putting too much pressure on her to be accountable for things that I felt like I needed to do, like making sure she was checking in to class on time, checking in to make sure that her assignments are being turned in on time or at all. So it was challenging to try to figure out how much weight do I put on her now that I'm at home working, doing 2 jobs at one time, essentially, and how much do I absorb? So it was a balancing factor, I guess, that was the overarching outcome of being at home. So.
What about fatigue?
Yes. My day didn't end, right? So I went from doing 2 jobs, one, I was at home, I was at work doing one thing, and then when I come home, I can transition. There was never a transition period where you know, let go of the day at work and now I'm transitioning to be a parent. It was both hats at the same time. And I had all kind of fatigue. I got tired of making decisions all day. I got tired physically from, you know, trying to handle work stuff and school stuff at the same time. So all types of fatigue. And that caused me to relax in some areas where I shouldn't have relaxed. But getting to bed on time, waking up on time, checking up on classwork, you know. So yes, there was quite a bit of fatigue.
You know, the family meeting concept, to me, takes on new significance, you know, in this time of COVID. Because some of the things that you would normally talk about in the family meeting, it mentioned, you know, how was your day at school? Blah, 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 right? Actually, that's not what the family meeting is about anymore, or shouldn't be about, right? Now the family meeting can be more about how are we coping as a family with COVID, right? You know, what about self-care? You know, I know you might have a 14-year-old who is extraordinarily frustrated without being able to go friends, a 17-year-old who may be extraordinarily frustrated without being able to go out. Let's talk about those around the family meeting. And I'm seeing some bedtime questions on chat, right? Is this for adults or children? I'm kidding. Are we talking about bedtime for what age group are we talking about? I guess because obviously, 13. Okay, 13. So A plus B equals C. I guess that is that. What is that? Is that algebra? Don't ask me because I was never good in algebra.
It can be
But
because it's letters, talking about math.
okay.
We can say A plus B equals C, looking at the variables.
Okay, there. I see. Let me stay away from that. Ain't my lane.
Hey, you see, I hopped in willingly.
Okay. So let's talk about bedtime. You know, bedtime in the times of cell phones and tech challenges, I think, are the single biggest issue people seem to be having. Right now, again, I go back to the family meetings because communication and rule govern. There's something called rule govern and contingency based. So rule govern means that some children, once rules are set, tend to be okay, you follow the rules pretty good. Contingency based means that they need to be rewarded for following rules, right? So if there's a way to set up a reward system for following a bedtime rule. So you're talking, you know, and I was looking at the chat in terms of the age range, it's all over the place, right? So it might be an item of clothing, it might be visits with a certain relative or friend, it might be anything of value. So you each know your children and what they appreciate most, right? So when we talk about external motivation, this is an external motivation opportunity. So if you go to bed, right, and you know, behaviorists will say that you count. So say that I'm a 13-year-old and having trouble going to bed. So listen, Damone, if you go to bed on time 2 days out of the week, you get this. You go to bed on time 3 days out of the week, you get this. So it can be an external motivation to start and then reframe it in the family meetings, right? That, okay, we know how important it is for you to get yours, especially during these times of COVID, because you want to stay healthy. Now, hopefully, as you engage in family meetings and communication becomes less challenging, where the children are starting to feel more valued and starting to appreciate how you're approaching them a little differently, then they can start to appreciate how it fits into the family structure, right? So then you start to remove the external motivations little by little by little, right? And it's just something that you can try. I've seen it work in the past, and then I've seen it not work. Listen, there's just no guarantees. That's just a tool that's a suggestion. But again, all of these, any challenge that you're having with the family really need to be addressed in the family meeting. One, because it's expected to be structurally in your family, and two, the child feels that they're really being heard, right? You have laid that groundwork about this family to say, I'm not going to judge you, son. Say whatever you want to say, just be respectful when you say it. And I'm going to be honest and help you any way I can. So the more they're heard, the more they tend to respect what you're attempting to do in the family. And that's all you can do. Again, we're talking about trust the process, and you may be starting from a big deficit, right? You know, Vernon said he loved math. Okay. I did too in the second grade. But anyway, that's a story. Again, it's building a sense of belonging, a sense of trust, a sense that they are being heard. That's the bottom line. If your children feel like they're being heard, then you can get a lot done. And again, it's a process, because your children may think you are pulling, quote unquote, the wool over their face by introducing some of these things that you didn't do before, right? Some of this may be new in your family systems. So they're not sure if you're going to be consistent. We talk about consistency, and that's a key here. So consistently practicing these things. And I don't know, I'm just kind of like obsessed about the family meeting thing. I am. It works so well in my family, I guess. That's why I'm kind of obsessed about it. But
Can I say something real fast?
please.
One of the things that's beautiful, and I'm saying to someone that's even making that comment, especially speaking from an African American young man, the value of like that traditional style family meeting is like one of the like biggest, and I want to say largest separation that happened to our family structures. That time where families got that opportunity to sit together at, let's say at the table, normally happens during dinner time, where we all know that we'll at least be home at dinner time, we'll all sit together and eat together. Is that opportunity where individuals get to actually talk and relate to each other, where you get to find out what's going on in their day, how to, specifically for the student, what happened in the student's day, and, they get to, open up and have that opportunity to talk to each other in like a structure like base. And if you all think about it, at least I could refer to it with my own family. It seemed like the older I got, the less and less that became, to the point where that wasn't a thing before, because we all were in our own individual lives. And what ended up happening, speaking from almost a student's perspective, is your student would harbor in so many feelings that they're feeling and go to other resources for, their outlets, and not based upon the family values that are established within the family structure itself. Because the mother, father, whoever didn't get that opportunity to maybe give a relatable experience that can help change that child's life, to give them a different, outlook for things. And even if it's something as simple as making a tradition of sitting at the table and eating together or something of that nature, I would think would be the same type of structure of a family meeting, where the family basically knows that there'll be certain times set aside on like maybe a weekly basis, where the family will actually get together and actually communicate, so that those doors are opened up and it doesn't just become like another job. You go to work, you do a job, you come home, it's like that's just another job, more like this is something that's needed for the actual family.
Well said. You are absolutely right. And I think again, when we're talking about COVID, where you're kind of stuck together, right?
Yes,
Much longer than you normally
absolutely. I'm
are.
looking at it as a benefit though, because now those, two busy schedules for each other, where now families can actually get together now because you have that time together. But if we can look at it more so as a victory, more so as God alluded for us to have this time together. And now with this time together, let's use it to the benefit of our family to get back. I really, possibly see benefits happening despite this terrible situation.
I wish every parent had your outlook. That was so profound, and I think the challenge that a lot of parents are having, and this I've been hearing, again, is the sense of being overwhelmed. A single parent with 3 kids, with 4 kids, and what I'm trying to present here is tools that, again, are easily adaptable, that can be integrated into those processes because, and again, thinking about the foster child, right? Let's introduce the foster child into the conversation. Foster parents are particularly challenged because foster children tend to sometimes be a little more emotionally challenged than other children for obvious reasons. And their time in school is a way for the foster parent to do some self-care and to kind of recharge the batteries. But now these children are home, and with what all that means.
Yeah.
And so it's information like this, there's every level of parenting experiences that people are having right now, right?
Completely.
And we just have to use what we can, all the resources we can, all the support we can. And I would imagine there's a way for you guys to share emails, right? To stay in contact, because again, that's another piece. Peer support, other, parents supporting parents, especially during these times.
Yeah.
And I think that's just enormously important.
One of the things that I can say, if I could slide in, especially from teaching in the classroom, you mentioned this before earlier, but I was just observing, was the incentive process. It's funny because I actually had a teacher before who actually disagreed with me with as far as giving incentives for students who do certain things, because the teacher's fear was that the student would do it for the incentive, not for the actual task at hand. And then for that teacher, I asked the teacher this. What about that adult that goes to work? Isn't your incentive to go to work to get paid? What if your job decided to take away your pay? Would you then still go to work? So it's like as if we're creating that type of structure for a child at an early stage so that later on when they become an adult in society, everything is self-will together. For those parents who may be asking a question, like, I don't want to feel like my child is only doing things for the reward. You want to, of course, it always starts off with knowing your child, with knowing what your child likes, and sometimes a child just wants to spend some time with their family, their mother or father, something as simple as watching a movie together where the child don't feel silly for watching something like an anime or something like that. Sometimes some parents have to bite the bullet, quote unquote, and watch that particular, TV show or something with their student, just so their child can feel like, okay, my parents now taking that incentive with me, you know what I mean? Where it's not a financial gain, however, it's still something that's obtainable that they actually can touch because it's tangible. A lot of times that's what they just want. They just want that actual one-on-one time. But as long as I want to at least say for myself, I would think that if we set, like you said before, those realistic expectations, and then you have a tier tree as far as when you do this, you receive this, or whatever the case may be. Now, everything doesn't have to be monetary based, but it can. However, I guess it's where you become creative in knowing your child. And then from there, your child just literally works towards that. It could be something as simple as a praise, where that child took out the trash and now you just praise your child for taking out the trash because they normally don't. And it should motivate them to want to do it again, just to hear that praise, you know? So now you obtained your goal with getting them more active. They, you know, did the work at hand, and, you know, that cycle hopefully will continue. So a lot of time on an incentive basis, I always try to relate it to us being adults in this world. You know, we work for the incentive of receiving something. It's kind of like the law of the land, if you will. So it's like we're just training our students in the same type of way.
Wow. Well, thank you, Mr. Casey, for co-leading this evening.
It takes a village, right, Ms. Anderson?
It certainly does. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, because see, you're an educator who teaches Black children, man, and I just
Yes.
can't tell you, you're a male Black teaching our young male Black children. You are an endangered species.
So true. And you can't do it for the money. It's so ironic, because when I first got into this field, other teachers told me, well, when you get into it, you can't do it for the money, quote unquote. You know, and it's so unfortunate, because education is not valued in America. That's a whole nother different segue. However, it's just one of the realism that we live and that we understand. And absolutely, Mr. Anderson, like it's my calling, if you will. Like, it's something that God put me on this earth to do, to help out my young men and my young women, you know, from all races, but in particular, of course, my own.
You know, hats off to you, my brother. You are appreciated.
I appreciate that.
So, you know, this has been, you know, super dynamic. And Rebecca, I noticed in the chat section, there's been some great suggestions. I saw that movie night, right? So whoever said that movie night, just what movie was the hit movie? I just want to know what movie did your son choose that was popular?
My son chose Bad Boys, and it was one of the older ones.
Oh, one of the first.
Yeah, the first one. And it's a big deal to my son because I'm not a TV watcher. So, you know, him and daddy, they would like to watch TV. They like to watch movies. But my son said, can we do movie night once a week? So once a week, we'll choose a movie, maybe something from Disney or whatever it is that he wants to watch. Even if I don't really want to watch it, I don't say, oh, I don't like that movie. Whatever he picks, that's it. And so we're all together in the den, literally with blankets, popcorn, snacks, all that stuff. And we have movie night in the dark, and he absolutely loves it.
Have you noticed a difference with Ernest now that you all been doing that?
Yeah, he likes it. So he always, you know, in the middle of the week, he's like, okay, what movie are we going to watch this week? And we like, whatever you choose, you know, so he looks forward to it, because
Absolutely.
it's our time for us all not to be, you know, in each individual room. You know, I may be in the kitchen all day. My husband may be, you know, in the den all day, or Nessa be in his room all day. But it's that one time of the week that we come together and we, you know, just hang out for our 2 hours or whatever the movie is.
So that's a beautiful thing.
That's a fantastic thing. And then someone said game night. So what kind of games? Because, you know, that's a lost art, or just like, you know, it's almost like an archaeological find, right? Remember Monopoly? Remember the board games we used to play growing? Well, I might be aging myself.
No, we still play Monopoly.
So do the kids still play Monopoly?
Yeah, my son loves Monopoly.
Good. Now we're talking the board game, not some no digital
No,
equipment,
the real
right? The
Monopoly.
actual board game.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
We played a real Monopoly. It was actually my way of teaching him about money and about buying property and, you know, maintaining budgets and things like that. So we used it as a teaching tool.
You know what? You guys are just too amazing. And then somebody mentioned dominoes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was me. I thought I would add to the mix too, but Mr. Nickerson had a comment he wanted to contribute. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Nickerson, you take yourself off mute if you're on mute.
I think he was having technical difficulties. Oh, He posted in the chat he likes to play with his family members, checkers, Uno, and backgammon.
You know, I've never learned how to play backgammon. I've always wanted to know how to play backgammon. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to do another session about games.
And one of the things, if I can slide in real fast, specifically Uno, Dominoes, those two I could think of, they're straight math-based. You're literally practicing and going with your students mathematical practices and critical thinking by just playing those games. When you play dominoes, you're recognizing patterns as well as you're counting by groups of 5. When you're playing Uno, you're recognizing numbers, you're identifying colors, you're identifying the patterns of that. Yes, it's just a fun game, but you're engaging at certain type of academics that would keep on sharpening those skills.
The educator strikes again.
You know, I just know it's one of my things because, you know, when I'm working with students with math, I got to give them that kind of break, but keep it academic based. So I may play a game like that where others would assume I'm just playing games, killing time, not realizing I'm going over strategies and things with the students.
I wish there were thousands of people on this call. You know, you guys are so rich in what you're doing. It's just so many parents need to hear this again, because, you know, I asked a question about what some of the experiences of home teaching have been. And I know fatigue is, you know, I've been hearing a lot about fatigue. You know, I've been hearing a lot about frustration. And you guys have been just so rich in how you've been able to navigate that. And, you know, any, you know, toolkit we can add to that process is beneficial. You know, you got, although all my kids are out the house, in fact, our second grandbaby's on the way, so we're happy about that. But you know, this has just been very, very rich. Is there a hand raised? Vernon?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to chime in. When the quarantine first started, I was making an attempt to take my kids out every morning just to go walking around the block a couple of times before we got our day started, like to kind of give them their cereal and breakfast and just to kind of do that. I haven't been consistent with it lately, I'll be honest, but it worked really, really good for the first few weeks. We do the family night as well. That seems to be nice, like once or twice a week. You know, overdo it. We even rearranged our front lawn. We have furniture on the lawns. We take them out there a lot and just sort of, you know, just trying to include them in our daily lounging out. When I go bike riding now, they have to go bike riding with me now. So, you know, just all of your personal activities you were doing, just try to include them in it.
You know, Rebecca, if there's some way, you know, and see, Naomi's gonna kill me, but I don't care. I've died several times in this process. If there's some way to post some of these suggestions on the Luther Center's website, you know, that would
Absolutely.
be fantastic.
Well, I would like to ask, I'm going to share this recording, and any resources that you would like me to share, I could share it with participants as well. But if you could please put your email, if you would like to receive that, the email in the chat box, and then I will also share some of the conversation highlights that we talked about here today, because the walk, the bike, the games, the movie night, those are all things that we could like implement right away and see an impact. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be happy to share them.
You know, you guys have just made the lives of so many parents survivable with those suggestions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we have about 5 minutes plus or minus. Anybody else have any comments that they would like to share?
do. I wanted to say first and foremost, thank you. I truly appreciate, just like everyone here, I think appreciate just this, mini session because we know it's jam-packed with a lot of stuff here. But truly appreciate it. And I wanted to ask for either some recommended readings or maybe some action steps, something actionable we can take and do right tomorrow. What do you recommend we do first? Because I see that, there's a bunch of suggestions in here, but what should we focus on first? If we're feeling overwhelmed or, we feel like we've got a large deficit to fill, what are your recommendations?
Family meeting.
Family meeting right away. Okay.
Yeah, I would say, because then you can talk about everything else you'll be doing, right? Instead of just kind of doing something here, doing something there, that kind of thing. A family meeting, and you just had a great opening. If I'm at your family meeting, I'm your son, I'm your 14-year-old son. It's been a billion years since I've been 14, but I'm your 14-year-old son. And this is the first thing I hear out my mom's mouth is that I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's some things that we would like to try. I am just, because I tell you, boys and mothers, trust me, they want to make you feel good. So that would be a perfect opening just to talk about. And again, you can review some of what we've talked about this evening. And even as Rebecca said, listen to the recording about suggestions, right? So you'll have a toolkit, and then you modify it to your particular family, right? Each family is different. Each family responds to things differently. In the toolkit that you have, something may pop, right? I'm sure something will. And then that's how you start. That would be my suggestion.
Well, we have, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, any recommended readings?
The readings piece, because again, we want to be operational, relevant, and practical, right? I had sent over the full chapter for this module too about motivation. So there's a lot of reading materials and practice materials in there that you can actually use as a toolkit in your family. That maybe Rebecca, if there's some time later on, we can send that information to you.
Absolutely. So if you haven't, please put your email in the chat box, and I will send you those uploaded chapters that he was talking about, in addition to the link to the video recording. Well, thank you so much. This was such a wealth of information. The dialogue is amazing as always. I love Wooten parents. The Wooten community always interacts and makes it more than what anyone had expected, because there's so much rich feedback that everybody shares. I really appreciate being a part of it. Thank you so much, Mr. Henderson, for speaking with us today and taking your time away from your family to share these resources and this very valuable information. If I don't want to cut anyone off, I don't want to deprive anyone an opportunity of asking a question, so I'll do a final, does anyone have a question to ask, a comment that they would like to share, something they would think other parents would benefit from? Please feel free. But if not, I think,
I'll just say
yes,
something.
please.
Yeah.
Please.
No, I just wanted to. Okay, somebody's not on mute, but okay. No, what I just like to say is that I am so happy that the Wooten Center has been able to organize a group of such committed parents. That's wonderful. And you guys need to really pat yourselves on the back for being so engaged. And I would remind you of the notion of each one, teach one. Please, consider that now more than ever. And on that note, that's all I have. Again, thank you guys so much for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating. And we will be same time, same place next week for discussions about math with Mr. Casey. So please log in next week as well and check your email for the link, the resources, and the video. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. See you next week, Mr. Casey.
I'll try to be ready. And I'm gonna check your email that you sent to me too, to see what you were saying.
Yeah, please. And then we could get that poll out.
Absolutely.
Thank
All right.
you.
Definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Nickerson.
Oh, I think he was muted when he was talking, and he didn't know to unmute his microphone, Mr. Nickerson.
He posted in the chat box that he was having trouble. So it was like a mute on, mute off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that was great. That was some good stuff. Oh, he logged off. Okay.
Absolutely. I know, because you was talking to him that time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm glad that you logged in. I'm glad that I got to meet you and here. I'm so excited about your presentation now because you have like so much insight and experience with the kids.
Right. Now let's try to do this math portion of it. And then I don't know, I'll try to see whatever the need is because, I'm sure I can help. Because I know it won't be like a full-on lesson. However, I'm sure it'll be, just certain trinkets that maybe my tricks or traits can help.
Absolutely. Because I got to be totally transparent. I'm not math savvy. So that's why I was like, what do you want me to ask them? I don't even know what to ask them.
Right. I guess the only thing really to ask is like, if I don't know really who desired to want this type of training, but it's easier to separate the two groups as primary and secondary. Primary being like elementary math and secondary being like, everything else in a sense.
Okay.
Because I'll try to cater a lot of the strategies that I could think of sets a foundation, which is based upon primary strategies. And I have a lot of those that shows us math that we never thought about. I just don't know if that should be it. I'm sure it's other areas and I'll try not to teach. However, just show like the guidances that I guess they're looking for,
Okay.
And or whatever other resources, because I know a couple of resource sites that I can also give.
Great. Yeah. If you want to share anything with me beforehand and I could share the screen, or if you want to, like Mr. Henderson took charge and he shared the screen, but I helped him with the presentation a little bit. However you want to approach it, I'm just like your support.
Okay, absolutely. I'll figure that out. Definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll send that poll out tomorrow. And I'll give you some sample poll questions.
Right.
And then you could say awesome. like thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, like if they can let's say if they know, let's say they would work with their child on this, and if they know exactly what that is and they were trying to explain but they couldn't and they couldn't find the right words, that'd almost be ideal because then at least I can address the direct issues.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I'm sure we should be okay. I don't think it's gonna get too complicated where then it have to become a lesson.
Okay. Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm not worried, but I want to help in any way I can. So
I appreciate that, definitely.
All right. Well, have a good night. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You too now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.